All right. Good evening or good morning, almost even afternoon, everyone. How are we doing today?
Hello, good.
Morning.
Yes.
Hello.
Fine.
Nice. Good. So this was a relatively shorter chapter, I would say, compared to the other ones. Nonetheless, I still believe that it's quite interesting. Who would like to start? Who would like to begin giving some insight on this topic? Anyone?
Uh,
Mariam, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, today I just want to apologize that because all the Thursday I used to read the book, and today me and Boban and Andre was in the meeting to
So
get
you
in
couldn't
touch with
read
the
as much
mailbox. Yeah, so that's why I'm here to get
to
some
listen.
summary from you and then read it after that.
Okay, Andre, how about you?
Yeah, it's the same with me, with Marian say.
Okay, so which project were you working on?
Mapbox
Uh,
police.
The map box. Okay, okay, got it. Nice. No problem. I will begin then. And then in that case, or unless Enrique and Murad, would you like to say something, or would you like me to begin?
You can start, no worries.
Okay. So something I like about this particular chapter is because it explains something that we have been mentioning about in the past, but I do think that this chapter actually clarifies it or puts it into actual words or actually specifies or defines that topic. And that is that whenever you work on a mob, there's a series and like a scale of different type of work that you can work on. You have all the way from very trivial tasks all the way to those tasks that require a little bit of uh, they call it creative or explorative work. And then I like the in page number 49, I like the little diagram that they put in which there's a range in which the mob is very good to work with. And that is basically in the middle. Not too trivial, but not too creative or explorative. And I definitely agree with that. I would imagine, I would like to hear then from Mariam and Andre, for example. You guys are working together with Boban on the map box. Is it more explorative work? Is it you have already done the exploration? What type of work are you doing together?
Actually, we did explore a little bit of that. Me and
Mm,
Boban on the Mapbox and Andre
mm.
on the Google Map.
Okay.
So we found that we are going to discuss in after lunch to understand which one is better and use them.
Uh-huh. And when you were doing this exploration, did you do them like independently, everyone by your own, and then you meet to discuss, or you were doing it together, the three of you looking into Mapbox, the three of you looking into um, Google Maps? How was that process?
Actually, me and Buban do it together this morning. At the same
Mm,
time, we create and everything together. But
mm.
Andre had a chance to read documentation before. Andre,
Okay.
just
So
yes, you
Andre
can
did
tell
it.
that.
How was so in your experience, Andre? Then you just sat down and you did it by yourself.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
In this
Okay.
moment, I try to read the documentation, the map box, and Google to
Mm,
decide what is best, and
mm, mm.
also understand both. But I say Bob and Miriam, I incline more for Google.
Cool.
Mm, I see more easy, and also they have opportunity for the future if I want to implement another project, use
Mm.
another APIs Google they have.
Okay, I will say something about that, but let me go back to the topic of mobbing. So definitely, there's going to be a moment in which you're going to be part of a team, and you're going to have to use a tool or a let's say a source code or something that no one in the mob is familiar with. It could be usually like a tool, as an example in this case, Mapbox or Google Maps. Trying to do explorative work in a mob doesn't really when everyone is lost it doesn't really help, and I really like the suggestion that he offers, which is to have like a time box. You go ahead, you for a given period of time, 30 minutes or something like that, you separate. You're not actually mobbing, but you separate. You're physically on the same place, but you separate in your individual computers, and you do explorative work. That is the moment where you do your testing, you do your own stuff to figure out how do you use this tool, or how can we solve this problem, or whatever it is that you have in hand. And then you come back to share the knowledge, or to share the things you learned, and so on and so forth. Enrique, Murat, I know you guys have been meeting as well in like your group. How has it been going in that sense? Have you been able to apply any of the things we have learned so far?
No, not really. The place doesn't fit for that.
Mm.
But I was thinking when I read the mobbing RPG game that maybe we can do something like it, in which we solve the problems, like the tasks, like in order. Let's say like we work on Murat's task, and then we see it on Murat's laptop, but Murat doesn't see it on the laptop. He's just part of the mob, and you put something to type, and then we discuss the solutions, and then we just type the solution and solve the problems, and then boom, 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 and then we go towards the other people's problems, and dun, 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 dun. I was thinking about it as a format to do it.
That could be. I agree with what you said. I believe I mentioned this. I'm gonna say it again, in case I imagined it and didn't actually say it.
You said it.
And that is, if you ever feel that going to a cafe is not the best because either spending money on coffee every week can start to add up, remember that you can still go to the school. There's no problem whatsoever going to the school and doing your work there. I would imagine the biggest, what's the word, hurdle or barrier is that probably you don't live there, and you might say, "Oh man, going there just for mobbing, maybe you're not interested."
The cost of the way and back is worse than the coffee, so it's like
could be, exactly. It depends. Well, unless you stay the whole day, because if you stay the whole day over there, then it's worth it, because that way you don't have to be paying coffee every 2 hours, or I don't know, 3 hours. It depends on how much. But yeah, Murat, go ahead, please.
As Enrique mentioned, so last time was like not so much to do because of the place, the environment. So, but I was going to suggest today if we can like meet in Chalmers Bibliothek in Lindholmen, because they have like a room with a TV when you can connect it with the HDMI. Then we can all of us see the same screen at the same time, and we can sit close to each other. Then maybe we can discuss stuff. Then maybe we can stop mob programming by some way. But exactly. We will see how it's working.
Yeah, that would definitely be a good alternatives. I know that besides that library, there are other libraries that I don't know if they have the setup. I have not been to every library there is in Gothenburg, but there could be other alternatives. But now I want to take this opportunity to talk about a section that I do believe is very, very important, especially now that you guys are early in your careers, you could say. And it's this aspect of mobbing with an expert. In general, it doesn't matter if it's an expert or not, but the idea that I want to transmit is important. I would say that there are, from my experience, there has been two things that have made a very big impact in my learning and my growing, if you will, as a developer. And that is listening and you could say active learning. What do I mean? Because there's active learning and more passive learning, and it's not the same. Let me explain what I mean by listening. Of course, there's sometimes you want to, when you're in a discussion, when you're in a group, some people have this habit of trying to impose their ideas or trying to not listen, basically, what other people have to say. And I believe that is a little bit of a mistake. If you really want to grow, if you really want to learn, listening what other people, their ideas, how they do things, even if you know how to solve that problem, listen what the other person have to say. Because at the worst thing that could happen is that, okay, you realize that in fact you coincide in the way of doing things. That's the worst thing that could happen. The best thing, you're going to learn new ways of either solving a problem, or new ways about thinking about a problem, or new ways about analyzing a problem. So again, it is very, very important to listen to your classmates, to listen to other experts, and so on. And even if you consider yourself in the future, you consider yourself an expert, listen to what other people have to say, because they might give you insight that you didn't think of before. That's the first thing. And the second thing I want to mention is the importance of active learning compared to passive learning. What do I mean? As I have told, I'm pretty sure that every single one of you as a group, I have said it, and that is, it's always easy when I solve it. When you see me solving the problem, oh, of course, it's so obvious. Of course, I had to do that. Of course, it's obvious when someone else does it. That is what I would call passive learning. You're seeing me doing it, and yeah, so you are going to pick something, but the amount of knowledge that you pick, and most importantly, how much you actually retain from that knowledge, it's a little bit limited compared if you did it yourself. And this is a struggle that, since you're here, I would say that you have to combat yourself. I'm not saying that you do it, but if you find yourself doing it, because of course, no one likes to spend an entire day solving on one problem. No one likes to stay an entire week working on a problem. And of course, it's significantly easier going to, in this case, Humberto, or going to whoever. Hey, what's the answer to this thing? Yeah. And of course, that's the easy route. It might not be the best route for learning. So always keep that in mind. And if we put that to the context of the education, remember that here you are to learn. And as a result of that, you can, as students ask me, you can push as much as you need. You can explore as much as you need so that you can actually learn, because that's at the end the reason why we are here, to actually learn. So always keep those two things in mind. And the motivation, how that's linked to the book, is because there's a section of mobbing with an expert, and he claims that it's easier letting the expert do the typing, letting the expert do the thinking, and then you're just watching. But that doesn't help you advance. Instead, you be the one who's typing, you be the one who is kind of the filter from the expert. The expert explains the stuff and you need to type it. And if you don't understand, you say, wait, you're going too fast, my friend. Slow it down and explain what the hell is going on here. Yeah, so that I can explain. Andre, I saw your hand raised. Go ahead.
Yeah, you speak something topic I have now in my mind for the future. Now we learn how to create a view model, recursive, adapter, blah, blah, blah. But my goal in the future is trying to learn another ways, because I know they have. Don't want to keep in my mind, oh, this code to create the view holder. So it's like that, it's in this way. So I would like to, maybe in the next month when I start the practice, learn with the experts another approach to teach me to have more information in my head.
Absolutely. So remember that learning, and this is important, learning is a journey. Ideally, you will never stop learning. Why? First, because technology advances so quickly that today you know this, today you know this, but tomorrow there's a new thing, and then the day after there's a new thing. So learning is a journey. So you have to think of learning as not I finished and I'm done. It's more, once again, a journey. So which is what Andre said. What's the point I'm trying to make? Number one, as you progress through your careers, as you either change jobs or move through your different ranks in the job, you have to get used to this process of learning. Like, for example, learning new ways. We need to start somewhere. That somewhere is this course. We need to start somewhere, but you're going to continue learning as you progress. You need to get into a habit, because learning is a habit. There's people which I find it a little bit foreign. Like, for example, for me, I like to read. That's the way I keep up to date. And sometimes I meet people that they never read. And I said, but how do you stay up to date with what's going on in your industry, or what's going on in whatever topic you work with? And you need to get into that habit. And the second thing, which hopefully, especially the group of Mariam and Andres, since you're pretty much done. Hopefully by now, you have not only gotten into the habit of learning, but more importantly, hopefully throughout the course, you have learned the techniques on how to learn. You have learned how to learn. You see what I mean? Because a lot of people, when they start the education, they don't know how to learn. And that sounds very weird, but it's true. They don't know how to learn. So hopefully with the education you have, at least in the context of programming, at the very least, if I were to give you a new library, if I were to give you a new tool, if I were to give you a new API, you have the skills, you have developed the skills to know how to approach it and then go from there. And if you have that, then you have everything you need to move through this learning journey. And for the new groups, Murad, Adjan, Enrique, hopefully it will be the same thing for you. As we progress, you will be learning not only Android and Kotlin and all that stuff, but you will learn how to learn and you will get these skills that you need to progress. Because at the end, if tomorrow comes a new version of Android, you're not going to register to a new 2 years education. I mean, there's a point in which you have to stop like formal education and you just need to learn by yourself. Every time there's a new thing in Android, I don't register to Chalmers to get that course. No, I studied it myself. You have to do the same for you. I mean, we all start somewhere. I went to the university, but it's not that every time there's something new, I'm going to register again to the university. I will never end. So yeah. Andre and then Mariam, go ahead, please.
Yes, in my case now, the moment I study on Android, I like the word refactor because you have the videos, guide videos for the apps. If we have attention and concentrate, just copy like you write in the videos, the code, and the app is work. That's fine. The challenge for me is coming when I think, okay, let me go to another approach with Umberto, or let me refactor this code. And that is coming the problems, and that is coming, okay, let me understand line by line.
Exactly. So that would be the example of active learning. Passive learning would be that you just copy, do whatever Umberto says. And I'm thinking about Friday, well, I'm copying. I mean, I'm not really learning anything, but really tweaking the code and changing the code, removing things, running the app, things like that. That is where you realize, so that is why this is important. That's how you do the active learning. And yes, it takes time. It is a little bit sometimes frustrating when students come to me and tell me, no, Berto, but this takes so long. I'm like, but what were you expecting to learn all of this thing in 1 hour? That's not possible. It needs to take time. That's how learning actually happens. Mariam, go ahead.
Yes, exactly. I just want to say something regarding the passive learning and active learning is that whenever we do the guide project and we see the project, so your video is really easy, but when it comes to the project that we should do it by ourselves, you cannot believe me, but I go back to your videos many times. You know, I just finished this book, just writing all of the notes. Yeah, and just one thing that when I see the video for the second time, I understand that I didn't hear anything. For example, at some part of the course. Yeah,
exactly.
It was really
that is correct, and that's why the guide project is there, not so that you watch it one time, but that you go and reference it back again. And just as Marian said, when you actually sit down and it's time for you to actually write the code, you realize, oh, wait a minute, I have no idea how to do this. I know Umberto talked about this in the video, but I have no idea now. I realize I didn't really understand it, or I didn't really learn it as I thought I did. And that's the whole purpose of those projects, so that you can put it to the test, and of course the guide is there to guide you. Correct. Enrique, go ahead, please.
For me, happened in 201. I did the guide one. Then app project 1, I was like, okay, I'm lost.
Yeah.
Done. But then project 2, okay. Project 3, okay. Project 4. By project 6, I code like the logic, the background logic of it in like 15 minutes. I did the skeleton. By the time you reach project 6, I was not referencing that much. So the whole practice of project after project after project after project is like it
improve.
it gets better. Like the last app took me more time on the design than on the actual app. So it's like that. It's really good.
Because repetition is key. Repetition is key in the sense that when we're learning something new, of course, repetition is key. So if you analyze those module 201, the first set of apps, they almost look the same. You have the guide looks almost the same as the coffee, which looks almost the same as the there was one of login, I believe. There was another one. They look almost the same. So you could, in theory, almost copy and paste from the guide, but the idea is that, as Enrique said, you do the guide and you think you know it. Then you approach the first problem and you realize, okay, I only know, just to say a number, 40% of what really I needed. You finish it and then you increase your learning to, let's say, 50%. Then you do the next project, and you increase that learning even more. And by the time, as Enrique says, you're in the last one, at least for the knowledge for that module, it should be close to 100%, because you can even move to module 202 and you realize, oh, so this is what Humberto meant in module 201. So in a future module is where things click from previous module. And I don't know if you have done this, but I know from my own learning, you will be on module, let's say 205, we don't have 205 at the moment, we have 203. You're in 203 and you realize, oh, so this is what he meant. So you immediately go to the 202, for example, and you open it and you realize, oh, now everything makes sense. So it's part of the learning. Andre, go ahead, please.
Yes, in my case, when I start the project module 1, I back to Kotlin again.
Okay.
Because and another part is not just to make the apps. Oh, it's simple. I remember one is like calculate the tips, something like that.
Yes.
It's not just calculate the tips and simple. We need to think about the user, because now we interact with the user and remember and say, okay, let me see if the user write 2 commas. My app crash. So this thing, okay, not just make simple apps, trying to create scenarios in your head, probable scenarios, the app crash, give you to learn more and go to get more information about that.
Exactly. No, that is correct. So when you're in the Android, you might think, okay, I'm done with the Kotlin, but that's where you realize, oh, wait a minute, I need to refresh my Kotlin part, because, for example, list or maps or stuff like that, I don't know, it depends on the project. You realize, I need to go over this thing again. But hopefully by the time you reach Android, the Kotlin part is at least simpler than what it was in the beginning. But yeah, it's a process. This is a key word here: process. And we have deviated. We have not spoken about mobbing per se, but I still feel it's a important topic what we're learning or what we're discussing. And going back to what Andre said, Andre used the word refactoring. With the old group, know what I mean. The new group, I believe I have probably not formally introduced the term, because we're still a little bit early, but maybe I did in the not the last lecture, but the last before. I mentioned about how you can refactor your code to make it a little bit simpler. That is, changing implementation, but keeping behavior. That's the key to success in programming. What do I mean? Software development is a process. As long as your product is in the market and is being used by people, the project will need some type of maintenance, either because it has a bug, either because you need to update versions of the dependencies, or because the requirement of the market changes and therefore you need to adapt to those new requirements, or requirements that were needed before might not be required anymore. The point is, software is always evolving, software is always changing. And the key to that is to think about software from two perspectives. One, think about it as like an organism. An organism that is always changing or evolving. And also think about it from a refactoring perspective. You don't have to worry. As I tell all of you, I have told every single one of you, first you make it work. Just make it work. Do not worry about trying to find the perfect code. Just make the thing work. Once you have it, you have a working version, then you say, okay, how can I improve this code by doing some refactoring? So the reason why that message is so important is for two reasons. Number one, a lot of people, they become paralyzed and trying to come up with the best solution. But at the end, you don't even get the best solution and you don't even get a solution, which is even worse. Yeah. So just make it work. And then the second reason why I speak about refactoring is because then it's not enough only to make it work. Then once you have it working, you need to go to the next stage, which is the improvement, the optimization, and all that stuff. Because a lot of students, they just have it working, they forget about it. No, now you start phase two. Now you start improving it. You should not stop now, because it is working, okay, but I don't understand half the code, and that's a problem. I don't understand half the code because this is super messy. That is what I mean. You have to think about software as something that evolves, something that changes, and also then associated to that, refactoring. That has to be your biggest or your best friend, your best tool, the philosophy about refactoring. Any thoughts, any questions about that? I mean, we're speaking a lot about learning, which I believe it's very important because we are all in this learning journey of learning. Yes, any thoughts? Ajan, for example, Ajan, Murad, any thoughts? No?
I have refactored my temperature app like 5 times. Like,
okay.
Oh, like, oh, I could do this. And I just wake up to
Exactly.
make it work. So back.
Yeah, that's exactly. And also another reason why making it work is not only, especially now, making it work is not only, sorry, it's not enough. You also have to then, that's the first stage, but then you move to the next one, which is you refactor. It's because now, for example, all of you are going to start looking for internships, jobs, and so on. And one technique that you will not be surprised to hear is that companies ask one of two things or both. One could be, do you have a GitHub account and can I see some of your code? So they would like to see some of your code. Or two, they might put you an assignment, a coding assignment that you need to solve. If you either one, if you are into this habit of just making it work and creating ugly code, people are not going to like that. People are not going to like that. They want to make sure, speaking from experience, remember, yeah, some positions, some people want senior developers, but I believe that what is more important when people are hiring is number one, that you're passionate about what you're doing. So I have said a lot of students from previous groups, they either didn't get an internship or almost lose the opportunity to go to the company because when they presented their work, when they presented their CVs, they didn't project this image that they cared about the field, that they cared about the project. So the company will say like, look, I saw their project, but it doesn't look like he cares much because the project doesn't reflect that. The project doesn't reflect that he cares or she cares about the field. And you can see that. You can see just by reading at someone's CV, you can see how much time was put into that. And you can tell maybe this person is not that interested as he or she says he or she is. You see, so you need to project that stuff, and one way of projecting that is in the quality of your work, in the quality of your code, in the quality of your application. So how does that relate to all of this? That you not only have to focus on making it work, but you also need to do the refactoring to make it a code that you can feel proud of. Not only proud because it works, but proud because it's readable, it's understandable, it's scalable, it's manageable, so on and so forth. Any thoughts on that before we close it for today? No? So again, for the old group, as you're doing, continuous, you're doing, exploring, learning, refactoring. For the new group, remember, it's a process. There's a lot of time, exploration involved. And as long as you put the time, the results will come. The old group can tell you. So, yes. So with that said, let's keep it up to here. Next week, we have another one, preparing the workplace for regular mobbing. So maybe, Enrique, Murad, this can help us see what would be a good place to do the mobbing and what's the equipment that we might need to have a successful mobbing, either at school or Condeco, who knows? Maybe you might have to bring a TV to Condeco and you do the mobbing there. Yes, exactly. Anyways, exactly. Anyways, thank you everyone for joining, and I will see you either in the help session or lecture. Okay?
Yeah.
Have a
Thanks
good
lot.
one.
Bye. See you,
Bye-bye.
Murad. Bye.
See you soon.